Good morning, traders. Today is Wednesday, November 30th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. The Pirate Traders live stream. All right. Well, let's take a second to just look at where we are, bigger picture here. It certainly would appear the market is stuck inside a balance area. That is a range where over a period of days, it is bouncing up and down inside that range. We're opening pretty close to the balance area low, which we tested yesterday, and really, really close to the node of death, the deathiest node of all nodes. So, first thing this morning, we're opening inside the previous day's range, and the overnight just chopped inside the previous day's range. So the first order of business is chop. All right, the first order of business is for the market to grind up and down. We are looking for resistance in here where we spent all this time and brought in all this volume in the overnight, somewhere below like 39.70. If we're able to get up through that resistance, we can look to test the overnight high at 39.80. And then it becomes, can we get above the overnight high? If so, can we come back down and find support? If we can, then it becomes very, very bullish because we will have looked below the previous balance area low and failed to go lower, right? That's the signal the market will give us this morning. If it's able to get above that overnight high and stay above it, that it has looked below a balance area low. And it did not need to go lower. Okay, so what does that tell us? Well, that it doesn't necessarily have to happen, today or tomorrow, but if we look below the balance area low and we fail to go lower, the highest probability is that we're heading back up to the opposite end of balance. Okay? And there's a lot of money to be made on the way back up to that opposite end if we can get above that overnight high and find support. So no reason to try to rush it. Better to wait and see. Why is it so important to wait? Because of this node right here around 69. This node has acted as such a strong magnet for the market. If the market did want to break lower, it would not be unreasonable to me to test the balance area low, come back, retest this node for resistance, which is what the overnight just did, and then take the market lower. Okay? So I won't get bullish at all until we can get through that overnight range. And then exact same thing to the downside. So if the market is able to push its way below that overnight low, well, now I'm saying to myself, okay, we've got some momentum. We've got a lot of weakness that is still in need of repair down here. I can start to monitor for continuation lower. And then if the market gets its way below yesterday's low, well, then I can see it as a breakout of this larger balance area. I actually need to zoom out to the daily to show that. Yeah, so I would see it as a breakout of this larger balance that's happening here, which could lead to excess to the downside. So the long and the short of it is the market is set up right now to make a pretty big move. I said the same thing a couple days ago up here. I said it's either going to go higher or it's going to head back down to the opposite end of balance. It ended up heading back down to the opposite end of balance. The same thing is now true on the downside. We're either going to break lower, which will likely lead to excess to the downside, or we're heading back up towards that opposite end of balance once again. And if I had to guess, whatever big move the market is going to make today, it will probably want to make it after Papa Powell speaks, which is at 1:30 today. So we're inside a chop zone in a very important area where we would expect the market to do lots of grinding and chopping. And we've got the whole market waiting on information at 1:30. All of that means we're in a chop zone. So we just sit back, relax, and look for more information. Where is the support? Where is the resistance? Can they get above the overnight high or the overnight low? Overnight high is currently at 39.80 and overnight low at 39.56, which is also weak because it was a weak low from yesterday. This is the choppiest scenario ever. Giant node that is a magnet, potential huge breaking point lower, potential huge breaking point higher. Get ready for chop. We got 140 people hanging out, 57 likes. Can we break that sweet, sweet triple digits? Can we get to 100 likes today? I think we can do it. Scooball says, being a trader is having the ability to be ready for chop. Yeah. I literally opened up the chart this morning, loaded it up. I saw what the overnight did and I went, okay, nothing to worry about here. This is going to be a boring morning of just waiting for the market to pick which direction it wants to go. Nap says, is that a 45 degree from yesterday's low? No, that's the 45 degree rule would be if it was the low of the day yesterday, created a 45 degree, which obviously it didn't. Or if the overnight had, which obviously it didn't either. But you could say this is, it's not, I wouldn't call it support. I would call it a lack of sellers. We totally ran out of sellers down here, which is what you'd expect. It's a balance area. So now no one wants to go anywhere because no one's sure who's in charge. So the bots will pick the pockets of the scalpers in the meantime while we wait for more information. Chris, I have a very important announcement to make to the group this morning. Tonight's theme on Lego Masters is pirate ships. I don't know what Lego Masters is, but cool. Are you ready for it? Okay, so it looks like so far the support on the Q is that 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles. So we know that's just computers buying there. Will they continue to hold that support? It's also looking like the S&P is getting ready to test that level as well. Breadth has pushed below the zero line, so that is bearish to see. I'm sorry, advanced reverse decliners. The breath is neutral. And the ticks are not giving us anything yet. The chop continues. Jose, why does 20 MA mean computers are buying? It's something we've observed over and over again for years now. Every single time that the market comes to this 20 moving average, it bounces like 100% of the time, almost, on the first test. And then sometimes it breaks through and it's nothing and it just keeps going. But then if it does hold as support, it can often continue to hold as support again and again and again. So like, let's say the market were to start to move higher and the MA were to start to move up and then it came back down, boom, it would act as support again. Market would go higher, MA would keep moving up, would come back down, boom, it'll act as again. So it just is like it always acts as support or resistance on a test. But that doesn't mean it's reliable because it's just bots and they obviously take profits very quick. It's some sort of scalping strategy. So it tests the moving average. It gives itself a little bounce. Then they take profit somewhere. And so as long as it keeps testing it and it keeps holding, you know that it's just computers that are holding the market up. They're not really long-term buyers that are trying to take the market higher. They're just trying to make a quick buck off the bounce, off the MA. And so when that MA breaks, say it's acting as support, you get a couple of touches and it's like support, 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 and then it breaks through. Well, now you know those bots have quit. So now we get to find out what the market really wants to do. Are there actually buyers here? And then the fun thing is it can often become resistance then. So as the market comes back up, that bot is waiting to now sell it the other direction. And it's just something you'll observe day in and day out, over and over again. There's no human on earth with that kind of discipline. It's got to be a computer. Okay, so we got a weak M period low at 39.56 left behind from yesterday. The overnight low was weak because it stopped right there. And now the A period low is weak because it stopped right there. So indicative to a chop zone. We've left a lot of weakness behind. There's your PMI numbers, I assume. Another little trick we know when something like this is happening is when all that volume disappears. Where did all the colors go? It's empty. It's black over here. Where did all that volume disappear to? Well, they're waiting to absorb this news. So they turn off the bracketing bots and they kick on the news bots. But we don't forget that they left that weak low behind. Anthony, watched your webinar on Bookmap on Monday. You got yourself a new subscriber. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. All right, so we're starting to get some volume popping up once again. Those good old bracketing bots we're used to seeing are starting to step into the market here. How do you know they're bots, Charles? Just look at the way the volume is pop in, disappear in a fraction of a second. Little colors, in, out, in, out. That's computers. They sure work quick. But we can assume that the market is starting to, or that's the sign it has begun to absorb whatever news just came out with that PMI. And we're back to business as usual as we chop it up. It's also worth just taking a second to look at the NQ here. I would describe the NQ's positioning on the daily as a little more bearish than the ES. And the reason is I actually think they have already broken out of the balance area. Balance areas are extremely tricky to call, so I could be wrong. But I actually think this is sort of the balance area low where we are right now. So if the market starts to push lower from here, it's potentially breaking out, which could lead to excess to the downside. So the ES is obviously still very comfortably inside its balance, but the NQ, it's testing those lows. And then the other thing I was looking at this morning, looking at it on market profile, was it kind of looks like it's starting to channel a little bit, which is a little bit bearish to see. Basically like this right here. Boom. Yeah, I marked the balance area low at 11,604 this morning. So essentially, if they can't get the market back up above the overnight high on the Q, it's very bearish. Happy trading to them. Great minds, Mark. Great minds. Market was a double distribution yesterday in the ES, which makes me think that the lower distribution is about to get acceptance. The ES was not a double distribution yesterday. The Q, I think, was. Yeah, the Q is a double distribution, but not the ES. But then he says, then Jay Powell will set the record straight. Yeah, I mean, pretty much nothing's going to matter once 130 hits. You know, either he's going to say something the market's going to like, or he's not, and the market's going to pick a direction from there. All right, so we're in the chop zone. We're chopping it up, but we got a lot of weakness on the lows. So it's fair to say if they can turn the halfback into resistance here and hold that resistance, they should be able to head down and test that overnight low. But if they come back up and pass right back through the halfback, it'll just be more chop. So we are looking for resistance around 63.50. Because it's a chop zone, and they're chopping it up. All right, moment of truth. Can that halfback hold? Morty, nothing makes me happier. I should put out a Christmas album with all the hits from the year. David. Honestly, you'll probably make a few bucks off that. Uh, Now, here's the question. Can we reverse engineer your software? Can it go in and cut out every time I sing and save it? That would be great too. David Keene. Every time his family walks by, he's got to turn down the volume on me and turn up CNBC. Well, I will be honest, it's not boding well for the sellers that they're having such a hard time testing the overnight low. Um, that this increases the odds to me that we're going to get more chop. Screwball, but the buyers are weak. The support screams to be broken. Oh, yeah, they're definitely going to test that overnight low. It's just, I don't think they're going to get much for it. I bet they're just going to poke down and come right back up. It is true, though. There's going to be some stops waiting. Lots and lots of stops. Stops from the overnight, stops from yesterday, from the last hour, half hour of the day, and stops from this morning. Begging to get squeezed. Hey, we reached 100 likes. Pew, 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 pew. Thank you for those likes. Appreciate you. Unfortunately, it's still a chop zone till we get below yesterday's low. David Keene, I'm very upset that there isn't a 100 like song. Why? So I could humiliate you in front of your children? This is David Keene's 100 like song. All right, so printing the B period here, we are still inside the overnight range. The resistance at that opening price is holding, so that increases it. Well, here we go. We're testing the overnight low. So we're looking to get a few more ticks lower here. And then if we can turn this low, 56, into resistance, we then look to repair the weak references at 50 and 48 and monitor for continuation lower from there. All right, so there's the resistance, increasing the odds we're repairing these two weak references. Boy, that was quick. Jolts, job openings. Great, great, great. Always something. All right, so can this resistance... All right, man, we just created another weak low in the B period. So we are definitely looking for resistance at 56 to head back down and repair that weakness. So I'm going to change the banner to bearish here because I do think we're heading down to repair that weakness. But it's important to note this is on the very, very short term. As long as the market is still above 46, it's still inside the balance area, it could just chop around in here for hours. It only really gets bearish if we're below yesterday's low. Okay, so we talked about this moving average. Here you can see earlier in the day, it acted as support twice, and then it broke. And once it broke, the market made a move. We're now doing the same thing again with the NQ here. We're going to test that 20 moving average. If it can hold, that's fine. But if it breaks, you'll look for a larger move lower. Oh, yeah, B high is also weak. Scooball, is the market reacting to every little news last time? I feel like it's more sensitive. Yeah, I think that's a fair observation. Both of those times today where the volume ghosted and we had these moments in here and in here. Both of those times, it was like nothing news. Like, who cares? But the market is on edge. It's nervous. Anthony, how much repair does NQ have to do? So yeah, let's say that this is a breakout of balance and they're looking to take the market lower. It would be, max pain, it would be 11,050. And that would be filling that gap that was left behind on the 9th. Remember, that was the beginning of the excess that got us up here. The market tried to balance off that excess using time, but it just couldn't do it. If it can't balance off that excess using time, it must do it with price. So I'm not quite there yet, but yeah, if today breaks lower, it will be very bearish for the Q. Michael, I totally agree with you, but then a part of me is also like, you could probably put that in the chat any day at any point in the last like 10 years, and it probably would have been equally true. But yes, point taken. Screwball resistance? Yeah, it's not super strong, but it's holding. I mean, just look at the book map, bro. This is all just chop. It's just the market playing games right here. All right, so if the halfback is going to hold as resistance to take the market back down and repair this week low, it's both weak because of yesterday and because of this morning. If they want to do that, they need to smack those ticks back down below the zero line and then start to hold them there. Smack those ticks down. You know you're bearish. Smack those ticks down. You know you're bearish right about now. All right, well, the ticks are not breaking. They're holding above the zero line, and we are starting to push through the halfback. So I am losing that bearish feeling. Whoa, that bearish feeling. And now it feels like chop. Chop, chop. So for those of you that are newer to the profile, this is a very important tug of war that's happening here. This is the back test of the overnight low. So whether the ticks hold and we start to push higher, or whether they break and we start to push lower, is very, very important on the, short term. Who's going to win? Ed, throwing out a question to the chat. Do you think Powell's going to be hawkish or dovish today? He votes hawkish. I, too, also vote hawkish. But what's interesting is how will the market react to it? Like if he's hawkish, will it go up or down? If he's dovish, will it go up or down? I'd be willing to bet none of us know. John says, this looks like a job for Bookmap. I disagree. This is a moment for the ticks. The ticks will tell us whether, like I said, whether they break higher or as they're starting to now, they break lower. They will tell us which direction the market is going to go. We got our targets from Market Profile. And so we're just looking for our confirmation from the ticks. All Bookmap is telling us right now is it's all computers playing games, chopping the market around, trying to squeeze everyone. Objection? Approach the bench? I will have order. I will have order. Kathy Penn, any downside target? Yeah, for the ES, it's 48. Right? It's repairing this weak reference. We can know with a pretty high probability that it can get there and poke below and repair that. But we also know this is a balance area low. This is where the market ran out of steam to the downside yesterday. And there's no reason whatsoever that they couldn't just repair that weakness and then instantly come right back up. So we're bearish to repair that low. But if we're going to stay bearish beyond that, we need more information, which is we need to push below yesterday's low and find new selling there. So I would describe myself as bearish on a very short-term basis. It's also worth noting that today's range, so the high and the low of the day so far, is completely inside yesterday's range, and today's value area being completely inside yesterday's value area is just another sign that the market really hasn't picked a direction yet. It's trying to figure it out. That's all a sign of indecision. So we must just be patient. The market will decide. But it hasn't yet. Mike. So I'm late to the chat, but I'm wondering, what is the node of death? So I call it the node of death. It's just a joke. It's not any specific thing. But essentially this node right here at 39.69 has been working like a freaking magnet recently, call it the last few weeks or so. Just over and over and over again. It keeps pulling the market back to it. And then when the market gets pulled to it, it gets stuck, and it does this. It has like tight days. So let's just zoom out a little bit. So you can see on the way up, all that excess off the CPI news, where did it run out of momentum and stop? Right at the node of death. Okay? And then it just had an overnight that went nowhere. Next day came back down, had to build support at that node right there in order to be able to get continuation higher. Okay, so it fails to break out on the upper end. Where does it come back down to? Bloom, this node once again. What does it do when it gets there? It has to have a slow, choppy rotation. Okay, a whole day and most of the overnight. It's finally able to break away from that node. It tests lower. It fails to continue lower. Where does it come back to? Boom, once again, same exact node. Same exact place. What does it have to do? Spend a day just going sideways. Spend an overnight just going sideways. Spend another day just going sideways. Spend another overnight going sideways. Finally, the market can break away. Boom, it gets a big move higher. Fails to break out like it did before. Comes right back down. Where does it stop? The freaking node of death once again. What does it have to do? Rotate sideways. So, I just hate this node. It won't let the market go. Why does it do that? I have no idea. Probably something to do with options at 39.70. That expiration level is really important for some reason. And so, when they get there, they got to hold the market there for a little bit of time to burn theta or whatever. I don't know. Esco says it's also the year-to-date volume POC. Interesting. Well, it makes sense. We spend a lot of time and bring in a lot of volume there every time we visit. David, at what point should we ignore the weak B period high? Just now, when the halfback held as resistance. Okay? So when we were up here, remember I said we were playing this game of tug of war. And the market was trying to decide, was the overnight low going to hold as resistance or not? During that game of tug of war, this would have been a target to the upside should they have broken higher. But they did not break higher, they broke lower. So now we're not worried about this. Now we're worried about this week reference. When is this repaired? Now, the second that this week reference is repaired, we get one more tick lower here, bloop, bloop. We repair that week reference. Well, now we've only got one week reference below and one above. So now it comes back into play. All right, maybe we need to come back and test this. you know? Or do we head down and repair this first? Okay. Well, then it's a when what should happens doesn't. That's a little more bearish. So you take each piece of data and you use it where it fits in the puzzle. Right now, the most important piece of data is this weakness. Can we repair it? And I reckon it's going to happen right now. Scooball says no momentum to the downside. No, but they do have the ticks. They do have the ticks. Novice Trader says absorption right here. Yeah, but weak absorption. I bet you it's a bot. Oh! Yes, sir. It's an iceberg. It's an iceberg. Do, 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 do. Scooball, 2,200 contracts. Is he weak? Yeah, it's not him, right? First off, he might be taking profits. We don't know that he's getting long here. He may just be getting out here. But even if he is getting long here, it's not him that's weak. It's not this guy that's weak. It's all the other traders who are piling on with him. The support that he creates convinces people that, oop, this is the low. I got to get long. I got to get long. And it's those traders that are weak. The ones trying to join the party who don't understand what's happening. And they put their stops right there. And even if he's not going to get stopped out, he might be fine with the market dipping all the way down to here, and he'll still stay in that position, but they won't. All those other traders, they'll want to get squeezed. Hill Trading. Thank you for the sub. Welcome. I'm going to change the banner here because we're going to be switching over to the private stream in 5 minutes, but I am still bearish to repair these weak references. Okay, so there's the first week reference repaired. And obviously that little pop was taking out those stops. All 800 of them. But it looks like our friend got to accumulate his position. So we don't know if he's taking profits or he's entering a new long trade, but somebody just got in with some size. Just a few points above the balance area low. Okay, so there's the repair of the second week reference. So I would describe myself as no longer bearish on the ES. I would once again describe myself as neutral. There is a very real chance, now that we just turned off the magnets that had been pulling on price, that the price could turn around and head back up from here. So I am back to neutral, waiting for new sellers, new resistance to take the market lower. If they can, and they can get the market below yesterday's low, then I become bearish once again for continuation lower from there. But in this area here, there's a very real chance the market can switch its momentum and turn around and go back up. So I'm back to neutral. Obviously, if when we print the C period in a couple minutes here, if the C period gets below the B period low, that will be bearish as a sign of momentum to the downside. And that will increase the odds that we're going to go down there and test that overnight low. But I still wouldn't want to be short the market until I saw the resistance there. Okay. So even with a trend down, I still need to see the market come back up and test resistance. I need to see those new sellers. A balance area low is very, very important. Okay. It is not possible to guess exactly where the market will reverse here, but it is possible to know there's a very high probability it will. So they're going to have to really prove that resistance for me to look for further downside continuation. Now I would say the NQ is more bearish, but this is for the ES. The NQ, I would say I'm bearish anywhere below the overnight high. Oh, Morty, good call. Yeah, B-low is weak once again. Weak because it was all buyers. Okay, so now we've got a set of single prints that we left behind from the B period. Okay, so that increases the odds that the market will push up, trying to backfill those single prints. But when it gets to the base of those single prints, which is also the overnight low, you would look for resistance there. If they do get resistance there, you'd look for it to come back down and test the lows again. If they can't backfill those single prints, if they immediately start to head down and test the low, that is more bearish to see. If they break the B period low with the C period low, then the market has begun the process of one time framing lower. And like I said, you look to see, can they get to yesterday's low? But as long as the C period is inside the initial balance, expect more chop and more grind. With that, I will say goodbye to you and all your friends, and head on over to hang out with the cool kids in the brigade. Thank you very much. John O says, I'm going to join now. Well, we'll be happy to have you.